Now that Season 2 of House of the Dragon is over, it's simpler to analyze the program as something quite distinct from its predecessor. This prequel takes place on a smaller political scale, with House Targaryen split into opposition from within, as contrast to Game of Thrones, which was a story about many different houses fighting for the power that the Iron Throne could bring. House of the Dragon has been able to convey a more personal story thanks to these family member fractures, even as it has increased the use of its titular dragons in ways that have been both tragic and humorous. The Season 2 finale, written by Sara Hess and directed by Geeta Vasant Patel, appears to be more concerned with teasing out future narrative threads than providing a definitive conclusion, as the montage that concludes our time in Westeros for now merely positions everyone on the brink of war. This is because the conflict between the Blacks, who are loyal to Queen Rhaenyra Targaryen, Emma Darcy, and the Greens, who are a part of King Aegon I Targaryen's Tom Glencairn contingent, builds to a point where it appears inevitable. Everyone objected to the concept of an alliance with the Triarchy of the Free Cities when the Greens' new Prince Regent Aemond, Ewan Mitchell, proposed it. Nonetheless, the master of Ships Tyland Lannister, Jefferson Hall, is now in Essos, having gone there to negotiate said partnership on the Crown's behalf. Not everything is going according to plan, particularly because the Triarchy's leaders desire gold, which Tyland is unable to provide. Tyland argues that breaking the blockade Corlys Velaryon's, Steve Toussaint, ships are currently enforcing would only be beneficial to everyone, but the Triarchy is unyielding because they have no real reason to help in this fight, at least not until one of them suggests they be granted control of the Stepstones as compensation. You know, the very thing that gave rise to a lot of fights in Season 1. Furthermore, the Triarchy only pledges to impose a tiny charge on everyone who happens to be traveling through that chain of islands. Though giving up the Stepstones for the Triarchy's fleet of ships may be a mistake Tyland will come to regret, these pirates, as the master of ships mockingly refers to them, are actually quite skilled negotiators. However, Tyland must first win the Admiral Loha's approval before he can return to Westeros with his new fleet. He is more than surprised to learn that the Admiral is a woman, Abigail Thorne, who emerges from the back corner of the room. After giving him a disapproving glance, Loha challenges him, saying that she will not set with a man who cannot defeat her in some good all-mud wrestling. It appears like Loha will win easily at first, but the Master of Ships throws a few solid blows, which seems to be enough to cause Loha to change her mind about him being a soft noble. It's about as sloppy, undignified, and removed from Westeros as Tyland has ever been. She has one last request for Tyland at the feast later that night. Impregnate all of her spouses before she leads her fleet of ships into combat on behalf of the Greens. The expression on Hall's face when he receives the offer, along with the sentence that asks, "How many wives do you have?" Aemond isn't exactly reacting well back in Westeros to what happened in the previous week's episode, as he turned tail with Vhagar and ran away from Dragonstone when confronted by Rhaenyra's larger group of dragons. Now, in a fit of irrational rage and maybe some unjustified embarrassment, he's brought Vhagar to sharp point and set the entire town on fire, inhabitants and all. One of Aemond's most unsettling choices to date, it particularly worries King's Landing Master of Whisperers Larry Strong, Matthew Needham, who promptly requests a meeting with an Aegon who is still recuperating. In addition, Larry's makes a recommendation to the king. Leave the city while Aemond is still away, because you never know what he might be able to do when he comes back, such as continuing where he left off at Rook's Rest and dealing the final blow. Giving credit where credit is due, Aegon's initial reaction is to resist rather than flee, which will likely land Aemond in jail by the time his brother returns. However, this does not guarantee that he will be any more ready to take on Rhaenyra and her 7 dragons once Vhagar is eliminated. Here, we find out that Aegon's dragon, Sunfire, did not escape the battle at Rook's Rest, and that he has been so severely disfigured that some sections of his body no longer function as they once did. Larry's, however, plays on Aegon's desire for love by narrating the tale of a man who, should his enemy's strength run out, can return and be greeted by his subjects as a monarch rising from the ashes. When we next see Aegon in this episode, he has taken Larry's advice to heart and is leaving King's Landing in a covered wagon with his Master of Whisperers as others get ready for fight. Alicent, Olivia Cook, who has just returned to the city from a long nature walk, is likewise debating whether to flee rather than fight. She is considering the best course of action to protect herself and her daughter Helaena, Fia Saban. It won't go unnoticed, especially as Aemond is already looking for his sister and hoping to persuade her to fight beside Dreamfire, her dragon. However, as Rhaenyra has already pointed out with great insight, Helaena is not the dragon rider her brothers are, and Aemond's frantic attempt to enlist her is greeted with rejection from both Helaena and Alicent, who has now reached the limit of what she can put up with from her youngest son. Alicent is the one who best understands how much Aemond's unbridled rage has shaped his recent behavior, but she won't allow his lowest impulses to turn his sister into a monster in the process. After Aemond exits the area without obtaining a second dragon for his cause, Alicent immediately turns to Grand Maester Orwyle, Kurt Egyawan, for help in the hopes of obtaining entrance to regions that are currently unknown to us. Sir Criston Cole, Fabian Frankel, is on the verge of an emotional breakdown while traveling to Harrenhal. When Alicent's brother Gwaine, Freddie Fox, confronts him for allegedly possessing one of the Dowager Queen's handkerchiefs, Criston doesn't explain his behavior or fabricate an affair. Rather, it's his admission that he views Alicent as his multifaceted savior that finally causes Gwaine to drop his sword. The Lord Commander has obviously been irreparably damaged by the events at Rook's Rest, and this has caused him to consider whether or not honor is a myth and whether or not men can truly be corrupted. Criston acknowledges that he used to think of himself as a champion of the just, meted out justice to all others. However, after seeing hundreds, perhaps thousands of people perish due to the devastating spread of dragonfire, he has had his mind altered, saying, "The dragons dance, and men are like dust under their feet." Criston remarks that at this point, dying would perhaps be more of a relief than anything else. Gwaine is too shocked to respond at all to this comment. Aemond begs Helaena for help in secret one last time when they are back at King's Landing. The Queen is even less inclined to listen to his reasoning than previously because she has recently been going through a kind of shared dream state with Daemon, Matt Smith. More on that later. It's previously been stated several times that Helaena has no relish for burning people, and she was the one who used her visions to quickly identify her younger brother as the one who had caused Aegon's crippling injuries. But now, Aemond's gentle pleas are more entreating, and the Prince Regent even has a tear in his eye, though it's unclear if it's a tear of vulnerability or wrath. Helaena appears to be making a prophecy of her own when she brings up Aemond's part in Aegon's trauma once more. Aegon will be king again. Victory is still unknown to him. He is seated on a wooden throne, and you will soon pass away. You vanish from sight after being engulfed in the God's Eye. The Queen doesn't waver in the face of Aemond's threat to have Helaena executed for her remarks, pointing out that her passing wouldn't alter the trajectory of the events she has witnessed. It is unclear how or when these events will take place, but viewers of Fire and Blood are aware that the drama has clearly simply hinted at Aemond's specific destiny in the dance.